It's a story.
of a lovely lady who was she bringing up three very lovely girls. Where are the girls?
Girls?
Yeah,
Question mark, question
we
mark,
should
question
totally
mark.
rewrite
Question
that.
mark, question mark, question mark.
Girls with
Where's
logo
Moxie?
R's.
The kitten, the very lovely kitties, pussies. I don't know. Where are we going with this?
Humans. Queers.
And you want me to do half and half?
I'm gonna set do not disturb.
Six.
Okay. So this beautiful book is coming out into the world.
I
It
have a copy
has,
too.
you have a copy too. We all
Yay.
have a copy because although it is the what is it the what is it the illusion of the publishing industry is that it doesn't land on shelves until, but it is actually in existence long before, right? So here we are
Ideally.
holding ideally Nearly Roadkill by Kate Bornstein and Caitlin Sullivan. It's Queer Love on the Run. And this is the 30th anniversary reboot of a novel that you all wrote in a long time ago.
30 years ago.
30 years ago, in fact. Um, in the 90s, I was I was a good girl. I was not in the chat rooms doing bad things or naughty things or queer things, especially. What was it like? Can you give us a setup? Because I think this is one of the things that we've been trying to capture, the essence of how intentional, methodical, how slow the process of getting to know someone, of building a sex scene, of exploring identity. How can you tell us this, just set us up a little bit in what that was like?
Mid 90s AOL chat room
No,
culture.
you
Give us a
Kate.
primer.
Meow.
Okay, that was okay. You couldn't just pick up your phone and do it. There were no phones to pick up unless you went to go where there is a phone. And then there were no pictures on it. Only Dick Tracy had phones with pictures on it. Um, Not only did you have to go to a phone, you had to go to a phone that was next to a modem. And the modem had to be plugged into the phone. And then you picked it up and you turn on the modem and you click on your computer screen. Have I got this right? No, you use the mouse to click on your computer screen and you open America Online. That's what we were using. And meanwhile, the modem is going.
And you have to use the same phone jack as your telephone. So you unplug your telephone, plug the modem in, which was a very funny story. Kate and I we couldn't figure out why it wasn't working because we had unplugged it and put it into the phone and we were about to yell at each other and then Kate held it up and said, I think this has to go in. Hard to explain. And then it was a big deal to have an adapter jack, like one for the phone and one for your
Oh,
modem. You couldn't use it at the same time, but at least you didn't have to unplug.
So while your modem is making all these crazy noises, America Online opens and you've got mail kind of voice that says that. And you'd have to decide how you're going online. You've got an account. My account at the time was Outlaw Gal, and I loved that. And you could either go to a room or a room. They were called rooms. Um, there was a room, for example, called the gazebo, which was for trans folk. And you would go into the gazebo, you would click gazebo, you'd have to search it under G, gazebo, and click it, and it would open it, and it would give you a list of names of people who were in there. And there would be a screen of text. People were just texting, and everybody could see what you were saying. and it would disappear and more would keep going like this.
Oh, wait,
And
wait. We gotta pause. First of all, could you scroll back up? Could you
Yes.
scroll back up as it disappeared? Okay.
could you?
But you-
Now back up. How did you know it was for trans folk?
It was set up that way. The gazebo.
So,
Gwen Smith, who's like a super hacker, trans elder pioneer, set it up.
but how did you know that?
You've got mail.
So via email, somebody would say, hey, I've set up this chat room for trans folk. You can join called the gazebo. And then you go to AOL chat room and you search gazebo and you join the chat room. Oh my
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then
Okay.
you see different people
Mhm.
listed over here. And let's say Gwen Smith was here. And let's say I wanted to talk with Gwen Smith, but I didn't want it to just appear, our conversation to
Right.
appear over here. I would,
A DM, slide into the DMs.
is it a DM or a PM? Private message or direct message?
it was an instant message.
Oh,
I am.
I
instant
am.
Was an
message.
Oh,
IM, but-
AIM, right.
But we
Okay.
didn't want to get sued by AOL because we thought that was proprietary, so we called it a PM.
We did. Yeah. And plural, of course, would be PMS.
But and that was the equivalent of our DM now.
Okay.
And Pete, you've talked about that the gazebo, like, that part of the significance of it, or much of the significance of it, was that there wasn't an equivalent space in real life, in person, where trans folks were gathering in that time.
Other than a gay bar.
Mhm.
And then, maybe 6 or 7 of you could gather there.
Mhm.
But in the gazebo, it was like 30 people from all over the world
Mhm.
were
So it was
there.
kind of invite only, right?
Yes,
So if you didn't know, if you didn't know the gazebo, you couldn't get in.
correct.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
And then there
So
was a verification process.
Oh,
And like you had to verify that, yes, you were trans. You would send this as in email. There was a form. You would fill it out, send it to Gwen Smith. She would approve you and you would be approved. You'd be on the list of approved people to go in.
Mm.
So if you're some schmuck and you say, oh, it's the fucking gazebo, I heard about that, fucking trannies, and they couldn't get in. They weren't approved.
so it's this super protected space. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you could set up your own rooms. Let's say I wanted to set up the beachside bar. And I would set up this room called the beachside bar, and I would wait. Just wait. Just wait. I'd be alone in there. Someone would poke their head in and go, hey, what do you got to drink here? And you go, oh, well, what do you have? And they would, and then you would type something like live jazz saxophone playing. And they go, oh, cool, yeah. And they would invite someone else, or you could invite someone through an instant message and invite them in. And pretty soon you had a jumping bar.
Okay. And this
Kind
is
of
where
like improv, right? I mean, we talk about it as role playing, and there's literally like
Mhm.
sexual role play, a lot of it in this book. But but at the basic level, it's improv, right? It's so creative. What you just said, if someone shows up, what are you drinking? And then you just go with it. It's really, and you create the music and you create the atmosphere and you create the character that you're chatting in.
and it would blow me away when some people would do exactly what Kate just said. We were in the room once, I think maybe doing Frankie and Johnny, and somebody started doing the saxophone. It was amazing. And they were just totally playing a side role.
wow.
And somebody else said blue smoke rising to the ceiling. So cool.
Wow. Wow. Like just literally setting ambiance and
Yeah.
scene around
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I'm jumping in, but the
No, please do.
punctuation of that, like when people are saying there's blue smoke rising, they're doing it between the colons. So
Colon,
I don't
colon.
know if I've showed this to you too yet, but we made a little
Yes.
sticker that says happy sigh on the
No,
computer.
that's great.
Oh,
But so it's punctuation like this, right?
Just like
Where
that.
The
the
double
action button,
just like
colon,
yeah,
that.
yeah.
bracketed by
So
double colons is
that's where the saxophone is being
atmosphere.
played and
Yeah.
such. Yeah,
And the
Yeah.
smoke rising.
Yeah.
So
and-
saxophone
Yeah.
begins misty, or right, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. Saxophone begins blowing misty.
Yeah.
Yes, I love this. Okay, so this is the slow build of any kind of scene, but with Nearly Roadkill in the 90s, this is how you wrote a love story between these two characters, Wink and Scratch. So tell us
By
about it.
accident.
By accident.
Yeah,
Do
So
tell.
because
Go for it.
do tell.
well, we
How
would
did you
write.
begin?
Kate would say, I didn't know what the hell this was. I wanted to write to her with snail mail. And after she stopped laughing, she gave me her name on AOL. And then I made one that was, dumbass at 502. I just didn't know what I was doing. But then she said, meet me in a room called Sunset. And I'd go there and I would see Outlaw Gal. And I think one of those rooms, I can't even remember, Kate, what they were called, but that was a pretty regular room where that bar happened. Then we noticed there was this button that said log chat, and you could click it,
Oh,
and the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
damn
yeah.
transcript was there. It was like, oh. And then the same went for a private room, sort of like the gazebo, but it'd be just Kate and me. And then on the screen, there might also be private messages between us and people we were playing with. So at any given time, there were all kinds of windows, and that was hysterical because every now and then we would mess up. Just like when you send a text to the wrong thing, Amber. And it would say, stroking your face, and somebody go, what the fuck? I was like, oh, sorry, other person's face. But anyway, all that would log, and then we were we were in the same city, I guess. Yeah, we're in Seattle, and we said, Jesus, this is a book. And then we, in our typical fashion, said, oh, I guess we need a plot. But we had all these transcripts, so I think Frankie and Johnny would have been one of the older ones, and then another one was when I had sex with a gay man, or somebody who said he was a gay man, and he said something, and I wrote to Kate and said, what would it mean to massage a prostate? Like, what does that do for sex?
Phone a friend.
Well, it's like this.
And so
But
then,
you could sign on with any number of
yes,
accounts.
right. So
And I created the account Wink, WINC.
Mm.
or two
and-
C's, right?
Oh, yes, it was in all caps.
Yeah.
It was 2 C's in all caps. And that way I could be anything. Outlaw
Mm.
Gal was pretty, you narrowed it down. But
Mm.
as soon as you signed on with a kind of a, what's that kind of a
Mhm.
name, you could be anything and enter any room and say, yeah, I'm one of you too.
Mm.
Mhm.
So where did the idea of starting to play, let's talk about that. Where did the idea of starting to play with what the meaning of pronouns, what the meaning of words, you've said some things where you're like, if I said this, I would be canceled. But I think that's really interesting. In queer community, we talk about this malleability of the concept of age, or the concept of age labels, in the LGBTQI community. Being an adult boy or an adult girl is a possibility. You can identify as a boy, a girl. You don't have to want to be a man or a woman. And you and I, Kate, we've gotten into some interesting conversations around, you and how you feel as a trans woman to get to want to play with being a boy again, or to feel safe online in these spaces like you would in a gay bar, to throw around something like dyke Caitlin, you were saying like to be safe to say something like that and to identify in that way. And that there's just there aren't good words. We get to throw them away or reinvent them or re-own them or rework them. So you started to play with, like you said, Wink opened up what you could be, how you could play, and you needed a plot line for sex chat rooms for this love for these things that were happening in these different rooms. Where did the revolution part? Where did this idea of rebellion or revolution? Where did the playing with pronouns come in?
Wait, can I just back up a moment?
Of course.
The idea, the romance
Mm,
was that Wink would sign on as could be old broad. I would sign on as old broad, and Scratch would sign on as old fart, and the two of them would get together. Hey, how you doing? And they'd have a grand old time with old sex. Whoa, hey, I can't get it up very well these days. Oh, you don't have to. My mouth on your limp cock, blah, blah, blah.
You've still
And
got it, Kate. That's in
I was gonna say, we never did that, but obviously we could now.
It's happening live.
but from doing that, we just had so much fun being different characters and still having sex. We said, what if these two characters did what we're doing and came on as different characters and had this great sex and kind of fell for each other each time, even though they didn't know it was the same person. And that's the plot of the book. These two characters just sign on as whatever and meet the other
right.
character, and they just fall in love every time.
And it freaks them out. I love that about it. Like that they're kind of like, no, we're both just here to play, and even more here to play when we're trying on these different roles and whatever. And then it's like, oh no, it's you again. Oh no, it's you again. Oh no, I feel something. I love how that unfolds there.
And that did actually happen for a while because Kate was so, volatile. She could go play all these different roles and I'd be, dumb me and I'd be playing with somebody I thought was new. And then Kate would be, haha, it's me. And then I started being able to do that too. But the other thing that strikes me is that we were safe. Like there was nobody in there saying, what are you doing, you dykes? Or there was nothing. The rooms were
Mm,
monitored. And that was
mm,
the thing that we felt like first off was, oh my God, we can say whatever we want as queer people, which
mm,
that was it. That was like, I'm a dyke, haha, nobody's gonna hurt me, which is so interesting because now there's doxing and obviously online trolls, but
wow.
if the room was monitored, then and it's interesting, Kate, as I'm thinking about it, like we were having this explicit sex, which they never censored. What they censored was being mean to somebody,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Mhm. And
Mm,
that was peer monitoring. So it wasn't like in the book, there's a character or a set of characters called the Eye, an entity called the Eye, that's a surveillance, and it's not so friendly. It's not the cops exactly, but it turns out there's a there's a direct line, and that we can talk more about that, but that plot line sort of to me directly relates to like real surveillance culture we have today and government intervention in people's identities and expression and corporate investment and all of this is in the book in a really prescient way. But you're saying that actually a beautiful thing in those chat rooms in the 90s was that there was actual peer supportive moderation to kick out like people who are being violent to others and bullies and
And I also think we paid a little bit. Maybe that, you bought the disc for $15. So that might have also, I mean, it's fascinating to me that it didn't occur to us that we were in the kind of danger, you are now. The other
mm,
thing is, and to answer your earlier question, Amber, was we talked I think on the phone and when we met in real time about how the pronouns were the problem. The whole problem was pronouns, and if we just had neutral pronouns, it would all be great. And so we kind of made those up, and then we started using them, and we practiced with them in those chat rooms. What cracks me up is that it never occurred to us to go the fantasy route or sci-fi route of having new appendages or being intersex or like we just were like, oh, I can be a boy or a girl, which goes right back to the binary. And in my case, all I really wanted was to be a few inches taller,
Same,
Nice.
hard, same. Oh my gosh.
right?
All the time. I
Nice.
wish I was a little bit taller. Yes.
Exactly. That was
In
my
the
big
chat rooms, you
dream.
can be. You can be
Yes,
as tall as you like
exactly.
in the chat rooms.
Yep.
Isn't that funny?
And for a new transsexual, and I wasn't new, I
Mm.
was maybe, let's see, 8 or 9 years old or something like that. I'd had some experience, but still, the flirting, you could learn how to flirt well. And sex wasn't the biggest thing really, but connection was. How can I connect with this person sexually was the big deal.
Yeah.
And yeah, you eventually you would get into, oh my God, that feels so good. And it did. It really did.
Yeah.
You could, well, words, look, the four of us are wordsmiths.
Mhm.
And so, Caitlin, you're one of the best wordsmiths I know. You're Irish. And you're a storyteller. You're Irish. You can go on and on. I won't say it.
Let's talk about those pronouns that you came up with. Elaina, you were oh my gosh, I'm going blank, but you were talking about um didn't you bring up
Me
Old
here and
English, the here and the zir and here, and Caitlin, was it you that said they were Old English?
HIR was.
right,
HIR is
HIR.
old.
And then there was Z and there was PER at the time, which Kate and I tried on and found hard to use.
Mhm.
In Z, there was ZEE. We ended up with Z. I think that was it. HIR is still hard to say easily verbally out loud,
Mhm.
but it's really fun. Once we started writing long letters to each other via email, we were using Z here. Oh, it really did open up the discussion because then we realized we're not talking about gendered behavior here, we're talking about people. And now we are
Mm.
free to with these gender pronouns. And then, of
Mm.
course,
The whole
other
beauty of
dams
it
broke.
was using these pronouns was Z sat down at the piano and started to play. What more do you need to know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Why do you need to know the gender of the person that sat
Mhm.
down at the piano? Like,
And what
And
does
it's
it?
important. Oh, you go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Oh, just important context for anyone who's watching this and hasn't yet read the book or has read the book but doesn't know the context of how this edition came together. Because there's new material in the book where you bring a 2025 character and perspective into the story. But I don't know, maybe like 80% of the book is original material. I don't know what the percentage is, but math aside, it's important for people to know that all of that pronoun discussion is original, is from your writing in the 90s. And
Mhm.
so, like they, them, by far won the race of the gender neutral pronouns for now, or has won it for now, right? Like it's the prevailing thing. But I was telling you, um, I went to Hampshire College in the late 90s, early aughts, and there, you know, pronouns were proliferating and including Z in here and like squee. I mean, people were inventing more so than using existing familiar contemporary language, the way that they them brings in a more familiar construct. and then talking to you all about this and reading that work that you did write in the 90s, I was like, wait, did you do that? Did you two start this train? I mean, clearly I know that Kate Bornstein is a early thinker and talker on these subjects, but did Scratch and Wink introduce Z here to the world?
No, it came from massive multi-person dungeons.
Mm.
When people were playing characters like a stone person made of stone, and
Mhm.
wasn't a man, wasn't a woman. So they had to come up with a pronoun that wasn't man and wasn't woman. And
Wow,
Z came from there.
Huh.
cool.
Wow. I went to the Renaissance Fair for the first time this summer. Um, Sorry, I have to tell you all this. For
Please.
Virgil's birthday. Virgil, of course. And there I am sweating in garb and looking around, and realizing I was like, all of this shit is like really just like like kink, Ren Fair, witchery. It's all very Venn diagram. Like it's all right here. So you say this,
Yeah,
and I'm like dungeon. Like I'm like you could be talking about Ren Fair. You could be talking
yeah.
about Dungeons and Dragons. You could be talking about like another role playing game. It's so interesting because it's these sort of subculture spaces where queerness and spirituality and self-exploration and safety, most of all, like safety amongst um, outsiderness finds itself. Like they create a space where there's a code essentially. You learn a language, you learn the passcode, you learn something that allows you learn how to find them, and you learn how to like I was my best friend was one who got us tickets, and she was like, listen, they by far they're like, if you don't want to stand out at Ren Fair, you dress up for Ren Fair at least a little bit, because the way to look like an outsider at Ren Fair is to show up in normie clothes. Like, and it was so true. I was like, we didn't go all out by any means, but like, I mean, my kid did, but we didn't. And just, it was, the person in the baseball cap and the khaki shorts was like, what the fuck are you? It was so interesting to see like this was the way then to carve out this very particular space. And now, they're doing this documentary on the like few remaining lesbian bars. Seattle has the Wild Rose, which is the bar I came out in, my baby. I love the Wild Rose so much. And it's like, one of six or something remaining in the nation. It's the Lex closed. Like it's these like very, very few. You talked about safe. It was so safe and it was peer monitored, and you weren't excluded for being different. You were excluded for being mean, I think is what you said, Caitlin. That was so powerful. And I'm just wondering, it made me think like, where do we find like are there spaces now, especially online, with so much, I feel like we kind of started trying to carve those spaces out during the pandemic when we got into lockdown, and maybe have started to succeed, but everything is so monitored, everything is so regulated in the ways that you were pretending. And here, the eye is actually now really watching and selling our data and mining it and dirtying our water and all the things. But what do you see now as those kind of spaces where we find each other and we explore and maybe experiment and find new language together?
I, all right. I just 2 days ago went on, was it Friday? Saturday, went to a party for Marsha P. Johnson, who was the trans woman who supposedly claimed to have thrown the first brick at the cops at the
I
Stonewall
love claim to have.
bar.
I love the shade. I'm gonna sip my coffee like it's tea.
Well, so many people have claimed it, including a whole lot of white cis men have claimed it. So fuck it. She probably did.
Somebody
But
threw a brick and we're glad for it. Great.
yeah, okay.
And we vote
But
Marsha, but anyway.
she was a transsexual woman and was proud of that and was an activist, an out loud activist who spoke at any event that there was, get up on the stage and raised hell. And this was a birthday for her. She's gone. She passed. At a trans commune in the Catskills, out in the woods. They have 2 houses out in the woods. They own 15 acres. There are 6 of them in the commune. And it was family day. And they invited all these people. There were like 40 or 50 people there. And it was safe. Getting back to what you were saying. It was a safe space. There were cis people, there were heterosexual people, there were babies, there were toddlers, there were adolescents, and almost one for one, all of it, you would ask, what's their name again? To the kid or the baby or the toddler. And oh, it's Dawn for now. And it was always, you would say, for now. They always changed their names. So what we did online, they're doing right now. And I just loved it. I just loved it. Little kids were changing their genders. They had a game, pin the brick on the cop car,
Beautiful.
blindfolded.
Teach the
Right.
babies.
And let them lead the way, you know?
Mhm.
That's amazing. And it comes down to that. Like, I mean, Elena knows I did a program, an MBA certificate program last year. Was it just last year? And essentially it was in the focus was on how to build an economy that betters all life. And it was really, really actually a very beautiful experience. And essentially I kept coming away with like microeconomies. It comes down to micro communities. It comes down to finding your people and building with your people. And as soon as expansion starts to happen, as soon as wild growth starts to happen, we start to get greedy. We start to think beyond expand. As soon as we start to think growth at all costs, then it starts to cost us, right? And you're right. Find your people
Like micro
and
safety too, is
micro
what I'm hearing
safety.
from you. Yeah.
Yeah, find that small group, curate them, run it by Gwen Smith. Make sure that she's, checked you off the list and approved you to come into the room. I think I'm so excited. I want to know, Kate, you've done so much work. You've done all the work. You have put out the books. You've talked the talks. You've workshopped the workshops. You have written a romance, and you have a love story out again. You get to talk about love and desire and fun and sex and exploration all over again 30 years later. And that's really exciting. And I hope we get to sit in the joy of that. Um, what do you want what do you want your people? What do you want those people who turn to you in this time of apocalypse? What do you want them to get from this? What do you hope that they walk away from with this? Caitlin, I'm coming to you, so just know you have time to think.
These are awful times. My country is turning into a dictatorship, has essentially turned into a dictatorship, with the remains of democracy. And they have targeted trans people in specifics. So it's illegal to be who you need and want to be in many areas of my country these days. People can choose to be activists and soldiers and fight, but that's not a path for everyone. But everyone, every single trans person is going to go to bed at night and think about it. And what I hope this book gives them is something nice to think about. Oh, wow, I can be like Scratch. And yeah, I can do that. That's possible for me. And I want them to know that romance is still possible and playing is still possible. You know, they're trying to legislate the binary gender system again, only it's not gender, it's sex, it's biological sex. And in that binary, the only way to relate one side to the other is warfare. As soon as you got 2 and 2 only, the only thing they can do is fight. There's no room to compromise. There's no room to play. Gender, there's room to play. Gender, instead of a battlefield, is now a playground. And that's what this book says. I get that right?
That's gorgeous.
That is. Caitlin?
Gee, how am I supposed to follow that? You know, I'm struck with, I am for the first time in my life living in a rural community where I'm very different. And I grew up on the West Coast where I could find all my people all the time easily. And one of the things that I'm struck with is that freaks and geeks aspect that we experience when we go explore, I think is very queer. I think that when you're queer, and if you're living in, bumfuck somewhere, you're different. And it starts you thinking, and it starts you reading, and it starts you, I mean, the conference that Kate and I met at, our heroes, because a very simple time, our heroes were all there, like Judy Grahn, all these writers that we had grown up reading. I'm thinking of, was Susan Stryker there, Kate, maybe?
Not at that
Maybe.
one, no.
But it was just like there they all were, but they were heroes because they wrote books. And we checked out books from the library or went to a queer bookstore maybe. And that was literally our liberation. But I do think it sets you on a path to think about everything. And when I'm sitting around with the farmers here, I love them. They're great people. I look like a farmer's wife, apparently. They're very sturdy gals here. They they are so locked in to the heterosexual narrative, and it is often very transactional. That's why the women look like that. But I mean, they're working together, but they're not thinking that way at all because they don't have to. When I meet young queers in the one bar in the bigger town, they're like my people. I know them instantly. They're trans, they're queer, they're lesbians, but they started doing that thinking. And they come from little tiny towns, and the town we are meeting in is probably smaller than Billingham. And yet that's the big city. It's where the university is. And I just want to say to them, you have it. You have that thing that says, I'm going to think and I'm going to read and I'm going to explore and I'm going to take chances. And then that Venn diagrams into the theater kids, into the Ren Fair kids, into the Dungeons and Dragons. But I think that nucleus is very queer. And I think that's also, I just realized that may be why so many people today who are young are calling themselves queer in a way that our generation absolutely did not. I mean, we wouldn't have wanted to advertise that. But in a sense, they're right? They're thinking differently. And I think that's our strength. And I think that's also what makes it so damn interesting. And ultimately, if we can, healthy, right? We're finding our people, as you said, Amber. So, yeah.
I
I
I
love the way you keep
wanna
doing that.
I wanna just cuddle this book while I say that, listening to both of you in those beautiful reflections, um, so the new plot line that got added to this book, the 2025 version, is that a young person, of a 20 something, maybe young 30 something person is researching what happened back then in 1995. And the metaphor of that, I mean, there's a very real version of that happens, of course, but the metaphor of that, of just sort of like, yeah, something political happened back then, yeah, we know sort of the bare bones of some of our history, but like, what if my theory is that there was a great love story there? Or what if my
Mhm.
theory is that my actual ancestors are there, like they were having the actual conversations I'm trying to find the language for now, and that it exists, and that, um oh, that makes me emotional. But like you did a really, really special thing in bringing forward actual, archival material, and then bringing in a character to unearth it and like translate it. And so maybe my thing I'm saying is that what I hope the book can do is give people of all different generations like a sense that we're not alone, that we're findable through time and space for each other, that the language is there, the history is there, the love is there. So yeah.
But I think too that something I forgot to add on was love is revolutionary, romance is revolutionary.
Mm.
I mean, the fact that you all have researched now and have an entire press that is about that. Love wins. It just does. People have been saying what the Beatles said since the dawn of time, right? Love is all you need. And it's also the thing, I think that a lot of what's happening with the apocalypse, the dictatorship now is they're not having any fun. They're not having any
Does
love.
not look fun. No.
And
Mm-mm.
even when they have fun, it doesn't look fun. And they don't even, I really don't think they know how to grow their own fun. And a lot of times, as you've said, Amber, when you are a kid and you want to just hump a pillow, that's revolutionary. Your hormones and your romance, your heart is going to move you forward. That's how you
Mm.
go forward. I totally believe in the political process, but damn, if you fall in love with a gorgeous person, you will change your life for that person.
It's true. It's
And
facts.
we have.
Mhm.
More than once. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. I think it's just really beautiful, everything that each of you have said, Elena, you too. This book for me is an opportunity to, I keep saying about the apocalypse now that something that I think a lot of Black people are saying, which is, the other day I just turned to my friend, I was like, well, it's not slavery. Like we want to talk apocalypse. Like slavery was pretty fucking bad, y'all. The 80s, it's not the crack epidemic and AIDS. It's not, like there were some really fucking bad times. And this is really fucking horrible, but also we've been through some really fucking horrible times. And I hope that we have actually maybe this time around remembered some of the things we learned. And that's what I think I
Mm.
really like about this is that it's an opportunity to show that we learned some things this time around, that we remember that it's been bad, and that we don't have to go all the way there before we start fixing it, before we start trying something else. That we remember our history so we don't always repeat it over and over and over again, that we're spiraling up and not just spiraling. Yeah, and that's what it feels like. It feels like when we look back and we go, oh, remember what it was then and how we are here now? Can we think of it as leveling up because there's so many more people conscious. There's so many more people not accepting the language that they're going to put on us, not accepting the labels that they're going to put on us, and not accepting that this is how it has to be. So yes, very much hopeful. And very much a horny love story, which I always appreciate.
A hopeful and horny love
A
story.
hopeful
Nearly
and horny
Roadkill.
love story.
Your love on the run.
That's right. Thank you, y'all. Thank you, y'all, so much for your work, for your presence, for your time today. But yeah, I'm so excited for you.
Do I get to ask a question of you two?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or should we? Okay. I just
I
wonder what.
actually,
Well,
I need to pause. I need
yeah.
a biology break. So I'll pause the recording and then come right back.
Came in a guy.
Sorry, just thought I'd put it back on.
Yeah, a guy came in and swung his jacket like this and hit me in the face, and 900 lesbians
Oh,
just jumped
geez.
on him,
Yeah.
which I had always told people, don't worry if anything ever happens. But it was so weird, it never happened. I was never threatened.
Yeah.
It was always a kind of safe thing
Yeah.
for me. Yeah, but what I wanted to, and Kate, do you want to speak to that a little more, or?
I played pool there.
Back when they had a pool
Nice.
table. Wow. Yeah.
Um,
Amber and I went on maybe our one date, or we had two dates, but one of them was there
Nice.
at the Rose. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Right
much
around
history.
2003-ish. Yeah.
Mhm.
Kate,
But
you
what?
had,
Yeah. What was your question?
okay, well, my question was, what made you contact Kate and say, I mean, I know what made you ask her, do you have any romance stories? She's like, oh, yes, I already do. But what made you champion this book? What spoke to you and made you think it was even possible to resurrect and also to augment? And, the process where you worked with us was so loving and conscious and smart and gentle. And it was, it could have gone a lot of different ways, and we were very, I'll speak for myself, I was very aware of the 30-year gap and, what are they doing now? What are the words now? But also the ages you two are, the generation you two are, but also you are in the world of writing and publishing. So, you're more in touch and maybe than some. What made you say, we can make this into a book that can be released again?
Ah, um, I'm so glad that the process felt that way to you. That's really important. Like very truly, that's really like at the heart of, like Generous Press, there's a lot to say about what we're doing, like what we're making. And that is an important conversation, but the how is also like deeply important to both of
Mhm.
us. So
You can tell.
yeah, thanks. Uh, well, yeah, so we, as we brainstormed about Generous Press before we had any books on our list, part of that was like, well, who are the voices that if they could be the ones writing in this genre of romance, this wildly popular genre of romance, this comforting genre of romance, sort of all of the pluses that we're seeing in this space of fundamentally feel good literature, like what are the voices where we would feel so excited about the friction of bringing that voice in, the art of bringing that voice in, the politics of bringing that voice in, sort of all of that. So Kate was just on our short list. Just what if Kate Bornstein wrote a romance novel? And then forgetting, I had long ago had consciousness that this book existed. But it was really sweet because we wrote these bold emails to people just being like, want to write a romance novel for us? And Kate said something like, well, I kind of already did, and reminded about this book. So that was part of it. It was like, oh, well, at first it was like, oh shoot, it already happened. And then it was like, well, what if
Mhm.
what if because, long history of independent presses having short lives because you know, we live in a system that doesn't support the arts very well, and queer independent presses even more so. So your book had come out originally on a small queer press. The book had now been out of print for a long time. But then the other part was, okay, so we know this book exists. I want to think about if we could bring it back. So I order a deeply out of print copy to come to my house. And the day I got it was one of the days where headlines were reading Elon Musk bans the word cisgender from the internet.
Wow.
Which is just it, like, you know, and then I start reading what you wrote, and it was like, holy shit. You know, like the it's not quite the same story you wrote in terms of how government is intervening in gender conversations and identities and expressions and freedoms in this book, but it's not too far off.
Right.
So the link that was there was kind of like gave me all kinds of goosebumps, disturbing goosebumps, and that it was like I would want to think more had changed, or that the sort of like actually like scary sci-fi element of your book had come to show up sort of directly. But also this beautiful, you know, everything we just talked about in terms of what this book can do was like, well, if this is what trans people are having to read in the news today, or what any queer person, because the word cisgender, like, in my mind, part of the power of it is that it's like it was part of a new era of being able to say, like, we're getting rid of we're cleaning out the remaining corners of what we're not allowed to say, which is like, yeah, there's a word for us, there's a word for you too. You know, like it's like it just is it was an important evolution of our language around this.
Hmm.
And to me, that word is like, we didn't come up with it. We didn't, Amber and I, our generation didn't grow up having the word cisgender in our vocabulary. It's more recent. So I'm immediately thinking all these young people who feel empowered by this language, who identify with this language, who feel it's actually just a word that is part of describing truth, a system of truth, are getting shut down, kicked out, squelched by someone with great corporate power, and then now great power, period. That's a lot to say, but that was the like
No,
the day I
it's-
got the book in the mail. I'm reading
Wow.
this and I'm thinking, like, what is it? Yeah, like how could we not bring this book back in to join the conversation where it is now? And I didn't even know that you two would then decide, like, you know,
Bringing
I
the
think
other
we
character, yeah.
suggested, you know, maybe there can be some tightening, maybe some turning up of the romance dial. But you two then came up with this really bigger innovation where you wanted to write a new character in.
Y'all,
Hmm.
I'm so sorry to have to cut short. I have to drop Virgil off at camp for school. So I have to
Oh,
go. I have to jump. I'm so sorry. He's been patiently waiting. Not patiently waiting.
One quick thing to
Patient.
say, what we cut, and Caitlin did most of the cutting on this one, and you two did as well, was all the explanation of what is a modem. How do you,
Yes.
what does the word
yeah.
online mean?
You can go
How
find
do
that
you
out.
type and talk? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, you know, like people know this or they don't need to know it to get to the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good story. It's a romp. It's a
Romp.
digital romp.
It's a wild romp.
Thanks, y'all. I'm so
Right,
sorry I have
love.
to jump. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye, y'all.
you. See you soon.
Bye.
Big
Bye.
love.